from the very first moment that we started, one of the things that's been talked about between us is that what matters most is our opinion. And we appreciate all of our subscribers. We appreciate every view we get, but that is not our number one prerogative here. We are not the guys that are just going to take the popular narrative and run with it like a lot of these content creators do. We're going to sit here and we're going to speak our minds, whether it's popular or not. And let me tell you, I've gotten a lot of comments, some hateful, some logical, but a lot of people disagreeing with simple stuff like here's Justin Fields fumbles. And all of a sudden it's like, you Caleb Williams lover, you this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, dude, just showing you his fumbles. Just gonna get it out there. If you have thin skin, this episode may not be for you. Like, caution, because I'm gonna dive in a little bit today.
Every week away from watching Justin Fields playing football, I think helps me be content with the idea of moving on. And I think a lot of us who were Justin Fields fans are Justin Fields fans. I'm gonna say we're like he's definitely gone. There's a world where he definitely stays and stuff. I'm okay. I've come to terms with every outcome possible. The love for watching Justin Fields play football and watching him every Sunday gets to be intoxicating. And I think the more weeks we don't watch him, the more clear the picture becomes for us.
Recently got a comment that said, here's another imposter Bears channel that's truly just Caleb Williams fans. Yeah, we're 600 videos in, and this has been our plan the whole time. It's silly, right?
The idea that Justin Fields is the Bears is silly. Caleb Williams gets drafted. That fan is going to be the biggest Caleb Williams stan, worse than he was Justin Fields, because all he cares about is like the moment.
The one thing I keep hearing fans say, look at the 49ers. You got to build a team up just like the 49ers did. And then once you have the talent around everywhere, you could just plug any quarterback in there. Just sit there and I hear that and I cringe. They're discrediting Brock Purdy so much. I mean, that guy's been playing high-level quarterback this entire year and last year. And I wasn't that high on him at the beginning of the year. However, he's proved it and shown it that he can sit there and play in this league with the best of them. To just sit there and say you could toss anyone in there, anyone like, I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo or anyone like Trey Lance. So clearly, even that team understands the importance of the quarterback position and getting it right. And they were willing to juggle it. They were willing to eat their mistakes if they're trading up for Trey Lance in order to get that position right. You have to have it right. It has to be set. It's so important. And I've had people tell me that I'm over crediting the quarterback position. Maybe. I tend to think that it's extremely important. I've just seen it too often. And I know we even went back and forth on this in the beginning of the year, Dave, where I was blaming Justin Fields from the start. I said, no. You have to play better. Yes, there are other problems. Yes, there's coaching. Yes, there's talent. Yes, there's offensive line issues. Things are going to never be perfect, but the quarterback position has to be set. A lot of excuses disappear once it is. Well, you need more weapons. Yeah, meanwhile, a team like the Chiefs is trading Tyreek Hill away. Well, Fields needs an offensive line. Well, the best quarterbacks have won while getting sacked. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl being the most sacked quarterback. Joe Burrow was in a Super Bowl as the most sacked quarterback. You could sit there and overcome those obstacles, and we need better coaches. Coaches are totally tied to the performance of the quarterback. Even recently, we have a guy like Sirianni that had, in his second season, he had the number 3 total offense, the number 3 scoring offense. He toppled the league with a team filled with Pro Bowlers, and they fell 4 points shy of a Super Bowl. And 1 year later now, people are talking that he's coming into this year on a hot seat. Yeah, great coaches, they matter, but they're directly tied to the play of the quarterback.
Up until about week 14, Brock Purdy was the number 1 favorite for MVP. They're acting as if he's just handing the ball off all the time. The guy makes plays. The guy does, do things that his predecessors weren't able to do. So, yeah, I'm big on the Brock Purdy being like a top 10 quarterback probably category. And that's what you need.
Another thing I hear all the time is, well, we should have won 3 games last year that we didn't. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You either did or you didn't. Every single team can make that argument. You can't sit there and make that argument. But you know what? Just to talk about those 3 games, people reference Tampa game day. Okay, so Getsy calls 2 screens in a row at the very end. Is it the best idea? No. But you throw a pick six. So I get the play calling isn't great, but that you can't just give the ball to the other team and let them score. You're better off taking a sack for a safety. I mean, you mess that up, and then on top of it, he throws another pick after that while trying to target Chase Claypool. So should have won that game. Well, you didn't because Fields kind of effed it up. People don't want to sit there and admit it, but it's true. So the other game is the Broncos, where Fields had a great game, finally threw for 4 touchdowns, but it did come with its huge negative. So the Bears still lost. It's hard to sit there and criticize the guy when he has a 4 touchdown game, but if we need you to be clutch, not the opposite. You can't just cough it up at the end. And now Getsy made a play call where there's a free rusher coming. Once again, is it the best plan? Probably not. But in a press conference after the game, Getsy stated that was the plan. That everybody should be on the same page. Fields needs to know that there is a free rusher coming because that is the play call. And so to sit there and fumble it and let the other team go and score a touchdown, that can't be the result of that either. And so even if the play call was bad, you still effed it up. With the Lions game, the Bears collapse. Okay, the offense did very little to kill the clock in the fourth quarter. And then at the end of the game, 30 seconds to go, it's an uphill battle, but Fields is sacked for a fumble that gets kicked out for a safety. Okay, now 3 points turns into 5 points down, but you were down 3 points with 30 seconds to go. There's quarterbacks in this league that take that as an opportunity. 30 seconds is not a lot of time, but what we saw is completely the opposite. We saw a guy just crumble in the moment. The clutch argument. People bring up like the Vikings game, where the very pass at the end to DJ Moore was super sloppy. DJ Moore really made that catch. But people forget that the 2 drives leading up to that ended both with fumbles. And on top of it, we couldn't score a touchdown all game. We got lucky we won that game 12-9. And then you saw that same performance repeat in Green Bay at the end of the year.
Part of, I think, the emotional connection to Justin Fields is like hearing the rest of the teammates back him up, right? We want him back. We hear all these players saying that we move on from quarterbacks too quickly and this and that and the other.
Yeah,
everybody
but
had Chase Claypool's back. Everybody had that's what I'm saying. So like everybody had Chase Claypool's back.
You can't throw your teammates under the bus.
Of course you can't. And I don't think anybody thinks the same way about Chase Claypool as they did about Justin Fields. But I don't think it was that different. I think they thought Chase Claypool was a decent guy, and maybe he just didn't like click well with the team. And then Chase Claypool, the rest of his career, kind of spoke for itself, and he was what he was. There's nowhere near a comparison here. I don't think Justin Fields is anywhere near as bad as Chase Claypool as a player. I think Justin Fields will go somewhere and he'll be productive, and he'll be good enough to do the same stuff again. He will have some version of a quarterback controversy. Man, Justin Fields, he's so talented here in Atlanta and Pittsburgh or whatever, but he's just, something's just missing. Something's just that. And people can't comprehend the idea that maybe this is just what Justin Fields is. There are 15 quarterbacks in the NFL that are better than Justin Fields that are less physically gifted. And sometimes it is just kind of between the ears, and maybe he will go somewhere and be better and just calm down and simplify. My opinion is that Justin Fields needs like a whole year off. He should not be a starting quarterback in the NFL this year. He should probably go somewhere, learn a playbook, kind of forget that people care, maybe be a backup somewhere, and then he'll get a refresh.
I think that might be the best thing for him, but I think he starts somewhere next year.
I agree. I'm not saying that that's what I think will happen. I say that I think that's what's best for Justin Fields. But putting him out there again this year and putting him with better receivers, people keep talking about how he has a lack of talent, lack of this, lack of that. There's always an excuse to be made. But what if you give him all that talent and he flounders again? Right? And yeah, obviously then you say, oh, well, then you just move on. But you just screwed yourself because you didn't draft a quarterback. Now you don't have those draft picks. You let Justin Fields stay. And now it looks even worse in retrospect, right? So
it just happened. We need more weapons. We go off and get DJ Moore. What happens? Mooney's production drops. So you didn't add DJ Moore. You kind of had that production replaced.
And you
by DJ Moore.
upgraded the position, right? But
You
like
did upgrade the position, but there wasn't enough to go around for everybody.
somehow, some way, right? And that's what's like the scary stuff. Like Cole Kmet is no longer an experiment. That guy is a top 10, arguably top 5 tight end. Like the offensive line is not, minus the center position, really not a bunch of
Center and
scrubs out there
guard.
anymore. Center and guard sometimes when they're
Yeah,
hurt.
but
But
3 out of 5,
this
you're
isn't a
good.
completely talentless team. The argument I understand is if you barely just missed the playoffs or you got bounced in the first round and it was clearly a lack of talent issue, you are
Yes.
nowhere near the level that you need to be. And part of that just has to lie in your quarterback, doesn't it? The fact that he can't make the other players around him look demonstrably better. I don't think there would be a lot of shock if you just came back with a better quarterback on this team and all of a sudden everyone looked a little bit better. It is what it is. And again, when you watch it, it kind of gets to fool you because you watch Justin Fields do things that you've never, ever seen done before, I think. Right? There's a lot of sacks that I can't name a single quarterback. You could argue it's Michael Vick, Cam Newton. I've seen Justin Fields like break out of actual full-on tackles and run a 4.3 40 and like go pick up 15, 18 yards. But it looks impressive, so it kind of fools the brain into thinking that's sustainable.
Listen, we're not just here to just talk Fields down to nothing. He might be the best athlete in the NFL.
Yeah.
He is so physically gifted, but even like listening to Carmen Yurko earlier today, what Yurko said he wants from his quarterback? A brain and an arm. That's what that position needs, right? So like when you start relying on your athleticism more than you're relying on your brain and your arm, you're not playing that position correctly anymore. And but I think that athleticism, that excitement, that's why people really want to hang on to him and say, well, we'll just give him time. But in the past, those are not the things that have resulted in great quarterbacks.
I can't listen to you while you blindly support and don't acknowledge negatives because I'll have a conversation with you about it, but I can't just be like, he's the best. You're an idiot to move on. What are you doing? That's fine. And the argument to be made for more draft capital, I love that. I started with that argument, but the more really, you work on draft capital so that you can get a quarterback eventually.
We did it last year so we could be in the spot we're at today.
Exactly. It's gambling with house money, right? So, but if you ask any of these people who are just blindly defending Justin Fields and ask them to put together a list of the top 5 quarterbacks in NFL history, I would argue probably none of them are going to put Cam Newton, Michael Vick on there. You're going to put Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, guys who could barely run, and they were still the best at their position. So the athleticism is so cool and it's so fun to watch, but it's not what's going to get you over the hump at this point. We're watching all these guys who are similar to builds to Justin Fields, and everybody keeps saying, well, if you get lucky and Justin Fields works out, then you get Jalen Hurts, first round bounce out, right? If you get lucky, it's Josh Allen, gets beat by Patrick Mahomes every year. Maybe you'll have Lamar Jackson, right? Bad play calling, all that stuff. Like Lamar's not going to go out there and say, hey, play calling was bad. He owns it. Like he knows he played bad and he needs to be better. And these guys just keep consistently getting bounced. And the quarterbacks that we talk about that just play well within their system, get rid of the ball quickly, make throws from the pocket. These are the guys that usually end up in the Super Bowl or in the NFC or AFC championships.
I can't do those comparisons anymore. So like to touch on the first thing you said, we get those comments all the time saying, no, Fields is the guy. No, Fields, he is him. He is QB1, this and that. But why? The only argument that people make that's actually kind of valid is, well, the locker room loves him. He's a great leader, this and that. I agree. He totally is. He checks all the off the field stuff, in my opinion. He is a great character. He's got a hard work ethic. All of that is there. But that stuff's not irreplaceable. And that stuff also, it's great. But somebody was arguing with me about, you're not going to take Caleb because of the character. He's a whiny little diva and he paints his nails and he cries or something. And I said, I didn't realize we were in the business of drafting characters. In that case, we should be going after Tim Tebow. No, I want Aaron Rodgers cut his family off. He was a damn good quarterback. I mean, I don't care. You know what I mean? I really don't care if you're getting it done on the field. I
Aaron
really
Rodgers
don't.
might be one of the worst people in the world.
So like those two, yeah, I would love a great character and a good quarterback. But first, I want the product on the field to be solid. And as long as that guy can play quarterback, that's all I care about. Would you care if he had FGB painted on there if he's throwing 4 touchdowns against the Packers?
Bears fanboys would lose their minds. They'd be like, yeah, I like this guy. All right. He hates the
I said
Packers.
half the city would start painting their nails. Whatever scrutiny I've heard about Caleb, first off, doesn't seem to be on the field stuff. In fact, the only on the field stuff that I have heard about him is that, okay, he does come from an air raid offense. He does play a little bit too much hero ball. Richie said it last time he was on with me that stuff doesn't, hero ball doesn't necessarily translate into the NFL, which is what we're seeing with Justin Fields, by the way. It just looks and feels a little bit different from Caleb, to be honest with you. It just seems like he's way more in control rather than it just looking like it's sloppy.
There are differences in the hero ball that you're trying to so maybe I can help you out in the explanation of it, because I've watched a lot of Caleb Williams lately. Is there's hero ball where you're scrambling with really no goal in mind, whereas there's an extension of a play hero ball style, Ben Roethlisberger, right, where he moves
Rodgers,
down the line
right?
of scrimmage, or Aaron Rodgers, where you move down the line of scrimmage, you know where you want to go with that ball, and if it's not there, you throw it away, but you're probably going to be successful out of pure talent. That's the difference. Is when I watch Caleb Williams, he's not extending the play for almost just to keep the play alive and hope a miracle happens. The guy has a plan. He's moving down the line of scrimmage. He's directing traffic. He knows if that's not open, nobody else is going to get it. And that's what the NFL is, man.
It almost seems like he prefers to attack the third level. So when he drops back and sees what the safeties are doing, he's just like, oh man, let me roll out and just kill you. Back to Justin Fields. We talked about at the beginning of the year, we'd be happy with multiple 300-yard passing games from Justin Fields, right? And we got one. We finally got the first one of his career. The only one of his career. So I started thinking, you know what? Okay, beyond just 300-yard passing games, because a lot of people then comment, oh, well, that's not all that's important. This and then it's true. Rushing yards are important as well, even though I've kind of made the argument that Fields kind of takes away from the running backs when he takes those rushes, because they're not always scrambles, they're designed runs. Regardless, I started looking through, and I know I gave you this information. I started looking through at total yards. How many total yards per game does Justin Fields give you? And this year, game 1, 275, game 2, 214, game 3, 146. That's total yards. That's pass plus rush. Want to know why we went 0-3? It wasn't until the Broncos game where he finally put it together and had 335 passing yards and 25 rushing yards, 360. And then against Washington, he had 339 total, right? Vikings, he got hurt. We're not going to count that. When he came back in, 273, 276, 281, 196, 267, 313 total, and then 175 to end the year. Meanwhile, a guy like Jake Browning had 300-yard games this year, 1 for 275. It's frustrating because this is total yardage, right? And the year before that was worse. I mean, the year before that, in 2022, Justin Fields in his second week had 90 total yards. In week 15 in 2022, he had 130 total yards. And week 3, he had 153 total yards. You could get a lot of different quarterbacks to get those kind of yards just by throwing the ball without even running it, right? And so when we sit there and start comparing him now, we've done this. We're guilty of it. That we sat there and said, hey, we compared him to Lamar, but our comparison was very short. You know what I mean? Other than just a couple of physical attributes, that's where it ends. Because Lamar's a good quarterback. And so at least we didn't entertain it too far, but we did even entertain it. I'm starting to get to a point where I'm not even willing to do that, because let's start with Michael Vick. Michael Vick in his second season threw for almost 3,000 yards, had 800 yards rushing, 9 fumbles, 8 interceptions, right? 16 touchdowns. So Justin Fields in his second season had 2,250 yards, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He rushed for that 1143 with 8 touchdowns, but he also had 16 fumbles. This year, he threw for 2562, 9 interceptions, 16 touchdowns, 657 yards, 4 touchdowns rushing, and 10 fumbles still. So I'm not even willing to say he's better than Michael Vick, because he's not. Compare him to a guy like Josh Allen, just based off quarterback style. Compare him to, it's not fair. We're really downplaying Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Then I really wanted him to take the sleep. I really did. I really wanted him to show me a lot more than he did. But because he didn't, this is where we're at. A lot of people say, okay, well, it's because of the coaching, because of this, because okay, whatever your reasoning is, this is where we're at, though. And I just don't understand how what we have here with him is like, why would you pass up on a choice of quarterbacks this year? Beyond that, the number one choice happens to be touted as a generational talent. And you can see it when you watch. Why would you pass that up for what you have with Justin Fields? In the last 2 years, Justin Fields is the second most sacked quarterback, 99 sacks in the last 2 years. I'm struggling to see if he will even survive. So if it does click in his head, you guys understand that those hits add up. Those injuries add up.
People really don't like Caleb Williams being drafted because it's almost like an unknown commodity, right? And as if it's, well, this guy could bust. Well, they keep acting as if Justin Fields is the known commodity. If this is the known commodity, and even if he gets 10% better, you're still dealing with a bottom, maybe 20th best quarterback in the league. So you're hoping for a now year 4 leap with a brand new coordinator, with hopefully brand new pieces, brand new receivers. And then where do the excuses end? Well, now he needs to gel with those pieces. Well, now he needs another year with this coordinator. People acting like Justin Fields is the known commodity is, to me, the kind of delusional part. Justin Fields is just as risky, if not more risky, than taking a new quarterback right at this point.
People say reset. Oh, you're hitting the reset button. You're hitting the reset button. You're not. To sit there and think that a guy can't come into the situation and have some success, I think it's bonkers. In fact,
100%.
most number one overall picks come into a way worse situation. It fell into our laps. Like you said, we're gambling with house money. Now, listen, I'm all in for Fields being our starter. If, I don't know, Carolina won a couple more games, we had like pick 7 and pick 9, I'd be like, no, I'll build around Fields. That'd be your best bet. Like, he is adequate enough and average enough. But at that point, I'm still not sold that we're going to win a Super Bowl with him. Like, he's still, in my mind, it does matter. So the fact that the number one overall pick fell into our lap, that's going to most likely give you a much better result than Justin Fields will. What you really, really, truly need in this league to go all the way. And I just don't think we're going to go all the way with Justin Fields. And so if that's the case, in my mind, it's a failure. I don't, whether you're a first round knockoff in the playoffs or don't make the playoffs or this and that, in my mind, it's all the same. I want the Super Bowl. So if we're going to go off and fail with Justin Fields, I'd rather try and go off with somebody else. And if we fail, fine.
Even if you like Justin Fields' talent, I don't think he's ever demonstrated 4 consistent games in a row. Right? I don't think I've ever seen Justin Fields play 4 really good games of football in a row. And you can blame whatever you want for that, but
that's why that Green Bay game did matter so much. Because if you would have been able to get a 3rd win in a row, it would have said something.
It would have.
The fact that he came out and just 9 points.
And people keep talking about how this, like, he can take you there, he needs more talent and more support and this and that. Objectively speaking, ignoring all of his side notes and coordinators and all that, I've never seen the guy put together 4 consistent games in a row in the regular season, and I've watched every single game he's ever played. And now all of a sudden, just because he got some new players and some backup and a better coordinator, I don't see that now he's going to put together 4 consistent games in a row. Oh, and it's against all the best teams left, and it's in the most high leverage, high pressure situations left. And all of a sudden, it's just those 2 things don't compute to me. And people are just like, well, get him a new receiver and a new O-line and a new coordinator and give him some more stuff. And then another thing and another thing. And the guy hasn't even sniffed the playoffs yet.
It could happen, but people don't understand that. They're hoping for a miracle.
Caleb Williams would have gone 1st overall in 15 drafts probably before Andrew Luck, basically. And people acting like that's something that you should just go, we don't need it. That's wild. They're using the same line against Justin Fields at this point that they did against Mitch Trubisky. Make him play quarterback. You can't keep hoping for this ideal situation and act like it's realistic, but it's less realistic for Caleb Williams to just get drafted and be better than Justin Fields. It's less realistic for that to happen than to put together a super team in the next 2 to 3 years because you traded back a few picks.
With great,
that's more realistic.
Dude, 100%. And I know we're at an hour, but that we could even almost end it on that. Isn't that the overall idea here? How is it? Like I said, this blind faith thing. It's just take a step back, and like people will nail you to a cross. It almost feels like I'm a fucking diehard Trump supporter here. Like, because I won't sit there and just glorify Justin Fields. I'm not going to put that in the fucking podcast, but like, dude,
this is something you can put in.
Comments.
This is something you can put in, and this is where I like to point to what you're saying is I don't think like you can point to a few of the NFL players who say like, yes, this build around Justin Fields. Analysts say this, say that, say this, say that. Go be a fan of another team. I don't think anyone's banging down the door and saying like, take our first and second for Justin Fields. Like, man, you guys are sure. That's why you're getting a second. Maybe Schefter said you might get a first if there's a bidding war or something like that. I heard
second and a fourth. Second and a fourth.
Yeah, and so that's why you're getting a second. Even the most diehard fan bases who need a quarterback, do you think they would actually take Justin Fields over Caleb Williams if the price was the same? And in this situation, the price is the same. You have that pick. Not only is the price the same, you get to take it and still get draft compensation for Justin Fields. I haven't even talked about the money part, which Justin Fields starts at Daniel Jones. Financially, just so everyone knows, like maybe we can get him for a hometown discount. No, you're not. First of all, you don't even know how Justin Fields feels. Maybe he feels slighted at this point just by the slander in the media. And the conversation begins at Daniel Jones, which I believe is $40 million a year.
One thing's for sure. I will not sit here and pretend that the quarterback position does not have a lot of room for improvement right now. Because it does.